this computer.
Okay.
So we are now recording into the computer, and I'll be able to upload it either to Yuja or the YouTube channel.
Okay.
So thank you for asking, Markela. All
Yeah,
right.
of course.
So again, just to put it in the recording, your reference are pages 94 and 95 in Ching, and it's the labeled Plan Obliques. You need your 1/4 inch proposed patio plan. And just to say again, I would like to show the gate, the 36-inch wide gate that has 2 steps down to the existing apron in front of the garage. And so to do that, I'm going to orient this proposed plan as an underlay under my trace and place it so that this ramp is pointing down into the left and the existing house entry is pointing up and to the right. So I'm going to slip it under now as in under the trace. And this is where the wiggling starts. Okay, doing this on an angle, it's kind of nifty because I can grab a corner of the page and wiggle it. So of your 30-60 triangle, let's see if I can show this. Okay, the longest side is the hypotenuse. The shortest side is creating a vertical to my T-square. And it's this hypotenuse that I'm going to line up my drawing with. And that will give me a 30-degree angle on the west facade. There it is. And then if I did this right, I should be able to flip it. Yep. And this gives me a 60-degree angle on the other side. And so this is what's called a plan oblique. We're drawing it from the plan, and the plan is rotated at an oblique angle. And by using the 30-60 triangle, it's going to have a pretty good view along the side that is resting against the hypotenuse of the triangle. That's going to be a pretty good view. And then the short side is also going to be a pretty good view. And then the other 2 sides, we may or may not see as much of. We'll see what happens. So once you have it oriented, go ahead and tape down your underlay. And the drafting tape won't, you guys have already probably seen this. It won't rip up your drawing, which is kind of cool.
Unless you have trace.
Even the trace.
Trace is fragile to begin with.
It is. But if you guys got the drafting tape instead of the drafting dots, I won't swear to the drafting dots, but this tape you can peel on and off and keep using. Okay. So now the big question is, can anybody see what I'm about to draw? I'm going to hope you might see some of it. So I'm using, again, the number 3 micron just to make a nice dark line. So I am going to start at the north edge of the proposed patio and basically draw it. So I draw it to where the gate is, leave an opening for the gate, pick up the line after the gate, and draw it up to the house wall. So there's my first bit of ink on the page. Now I'm going to rotate my triangle, so I'm using the 60-degree angle. And if you've laid your underlay correctly, then you'll see that the 60-degree side lines up with the north edge of your patio. And I'm going to, again, place the pen, lift it so I'm not drawing through the ramp, and bring the line back to the corner. Alrighty. So now,
I can't quite see the ramp. I guess it's just the lighting though too.
yeah. wonder what would happen if I change the light. I'm afraid this is going to create glare. Does this help or hurt? If I move the lamp down and try and get it to stay. May not be much I can do about that. I'm sorry. The one fail for me with this online is making these videos at the drafting table, because what I need to figure out, and maybe I'll futz with that over a break, is something that's shining down above my left shoulder. I don't think you guys still can see. Oh, I have an idea. Hang on. I might be able to lift my drafting table so that it's going sideways towards the camera. Let's find out. Uh-oh, that's all right. Let's see if this works. Might create an avalanche. Ooh, is that better? I've tilted my board up. Yeah, I can't tilt it anymore, or the triangle is going to slide, but you might see a little more now. Let's try the light again. All right. If the light is on the board, do you see better or worse? Anybody?
I see it a little
it's
bit
a
better.
little
It's
better
still
for
a
me.
little fuzzy.
I mean, it's a little better, but yeah, not too much. But yeah, if you have it in the speaker view, it helps too.
Yeah. That's what I have
Speaker view.
instead of gallery view.
That will fill up more of the screen, right?
Yeah. On yours, it won't show so much you speaking. It'll show the class speaking.
So how does this look? I just put it on speaker view. And if I'm speaking right now, Markayla, you are full screen for me. But
Yeah, you're full screen for me.
okay, let's do
Yeah.
this then. Can you see a little better now?
Yeah, it's still a little fuzzy. Like, obviously, I know what you're drawing because of doing it myself, but it's not clear, but you can
Okay.
tell what you're drawing.
Okay. So this, unfortunately, is the best angle I can get
Yeah.
at the moment, without risking dropping the laptop on the floor. So here we go. Again, the drawing is at an oblique angle with, since we all know that the ramp shoots off to the north for my design that was uploaded, that means that the house is at the south edge of the patio, and the steps down to the garage apron are on the west side. So it's the west side that's laying along the hypotenuse of the triangle, and it is the north side at 60 degrees also along the hypotenuse. So 30 degrees for the west, 60 degrees for the north. And all you have to do is trace the footprint of the patio. So trace the next, line everything up so you can draw the wall of the house, and go ahead and draw in your proposed doors. Just give yourself marks of where they'll be, and the existing door. All right, so you need to know where your doors are going to be. So you can do that by making like little dots on that line you just drew. They're markers. And then I know where my ramp is, and I left an opening for it. All right, so now this is really cool. You can also draw in, I'm gonna go ahead and outline the bottom of the planters, and I'm just freehanding those, but those are going to be seen And I'm going to outline where this brick wall is. This will be developed more as we start drawing the lines up. Okay. And you don't have to take your underlay out, you know, that can stay. We're going to see the columns. I'm going to draw those. And I know I'm going to see the north and the south side of each column, so I'm focusing on drawing those. All right. And then the planter over here, we're going to see the north and the west sides especially. And the round one at the corner of the deck, we'll see again the north and the west sides especially. On the railing for the ramp, when we extrude this up, we're going to see the west side of the ramp coming down to grade. So I will draw that. And then there will be the railing that we'll see also. So now you actually need your proposed section, because the next thing you do is you flip your triangle, place it on your T-square, and you draw those walls straight up. And you draw them as tall as they really are. So this is a 1/4 inch scale drawing. So now I've taken my triangle again, and I'm setting it this way so that I have the right angle. And let me do one more thing. I am going to remove the garage, the attached garage, from this drawing, because if I show it, it's going to block a chunk of the patio. So I would write a note on this drawing that the attached garage is not shown because I want everyone to really see the patio instead. So now we need to draw up, and I will go ahead and start with the planters. I'm going to get out my section and look at that and see how tall are the planters. And I will need my architect scale because these are going to be actually measured. So quarter inch architect scale. And here comes the proposed patio section at 1/4 inch. Let's see if I can grab that. And then the other drawing that will be useful is your proposed north elevation, okay? So here, from the proposed north elevation, when you look at it, if the camera can see it, that's going to tell you how tall your new doors are, where, if there's a new window, what the door looks like. So that's a useful one to have out and available to look at. And the section is going to tell me how tall the planters are. So I need to grab that. And you can work from notes also, but it's kind of handy. Let me grab the project book. It's kind of handy to have a piece of paper to look at for me. Okay, so here is the proposed section, and when I measure it with my 1/4 inch scale, because it is a 1/4 inch drawing, from the top of the deck surface to the top of the planter is about 2 feet 3 inches. Let's double check that. Yeah, it's about 2 feet 3 inches. 24 plus 3 is 27, 28 inches. That was a custom height that the client wanted because you can see the scale figure. If you can see the scale figure on this in the wheelchair, he's a little bit taller than that planter, but his wheels will totally be stopped by it, so he can reach into it. So that was a height the client actually recommended. If you've copied this drawing, you've got that height on yours also. So we'll call it, you know, just for laughs, we'll call it 2 feet 3 inches. So at 1/4 inch scale, you have to approximate. Because the 1/4 inch scale, it gives you the 3, but it's dinky. So if you're off by a little bit, I don't care. But come as close as you can, 2 foot 3 inches. So now, if you're using a pencil, you can give yourself a guideline for your planter. Let me use the short side, it'll fit better. Okay. I will use a pencil, which you won't see. But you start drawing your vertical lines up. The house wall is about, if we measure off of the elevation, or we measure off of...
House wall is 8'9" from the patio.
Thank you.
That's what I'm getting.
You can measure that off of your proposed section or off of the north elevation. And what you may notice, which I just noticed, is I needed a bigger piece of trace because I'm running out of space for this back wall. But here's the principle of this. Once you have drawn the oblique plan outline, and you're looking to leave open where the gate is, open where the ramp is, open where the house door is, mark where your new doors go, windows if you're going to use them. Then you take your vertical line and draw straight up for the things that need to go straight up. So the columns that you're drawing are going to be fairly tall. The planters are not. And you make all of your vertical lines. The columns are going to have 3 vertical lines each, because what you'll see on your page are 3, you're going to see 2 sides, but you'll see the edge of the 2 side angles, and then you'll see the front angle. So you get 3 verticals for each column. Because this is laid out as a plan oblique, you'll also see that the side of the column that in the plan faces to the west is going to be a little bit wider than the side of the column that faces to the north. The only challenge with doing these drawings, they're really not hard at all. The only challenge is you want to block it out in pencil so that you're not drawing over anything, and then go back and erase, and then go back and do your ink on top of the pencil, or use what you draw as an underlay. The only challenge is not to get confused by kind of this forest of lines, because you're looking at your underlay and you're constructing the oblique on top of it. So that's the one challenge. Your brain can get confused. So on this plan oblique, what I'm seeing is that the column that is at the southwest corner of the proposed patio, the column that is closest to the existing doorway, is blocking, as it goes up, part of my view of the windows. So I'm not, when I draw the rest of the windows and doors, that column is going to block my view of the center opening for the proposed patio doors. I don't really care because it's going to be obvious that these are doors. So, but it's just something you notice. And now let's look at how tall is the brick wall. Well, it's that little wall segment that I'm going to show, because that's what's supporting the gate, is the same height as the decorative brick on the house. So it's 3 feet from the proposed patio surface. So I'm going to bring that line up 3 feet. That I am going to show. And I'm not actually measuring at first. And I'm going to also show a cut line where I'm taking out that wall of the house. You can show the thickness of that brick wall. So you draw your verticals up. It's just, are you guys getting that it might sound confusing, but it's really easy to draw? So once you have drawn your verticals up, for example, for the planter, this planter that's at the front corner of the patio on this Paraline, this oblique plan Paraline, interestingly enough, that front corner of this planter exactly is lining up, or almost exactly, with that edge of the column. So that means the planter is in front of the column. So now I'm going to draw the planter up. I'm going to put my scale so that the 3-inch mark for the 1/4 inch is right on the vertical where it meets the deck. And I'm going to mark the top of the line. And you see I have switched over to pencil, but I will go back and ink this. And now I have 3 vertical lines for the planter, and I need to mark all 3 of them as to where the top of the planter is. So now I go back and I'm going to draw that edge. And it might be hopeless for you guys to see this clearly. I apologize for that, but I'm going to ink it. Up 2 feet 3 inches. That takes care of the north side, right? The side on the edge where the railing and the ramp are. And now I'm going to actually grab a smaller 30-60. Given the space I'm working in here, it might be easier for these short things. Yes. And now I'm going to bring this one up. And then what you do is, again, using your 30-60, now you're using that 30-degree angle. You're going to draw along the hypotenuse and connect the top of the planter on the west side. Flip your triangle, so now you've got the 60 degrees for the hypotenuse. Connect the top of the planter. And then you can round the corners a little bit. And now we're going to, I'll go back to pencil so that if you see anything, at least it will be the ink. Using the 30 degrees, you draw the top of the planter, 30 and 60. So now, I don't know if you can see this. Let me ink it. We'll see if that shows. All right. So the planter has a thickness to the sides, and I will go ahead and just hand draw that. All right. And I think I will darken up here at the bottom a touch. All right, I don't know if you can you guys see this? I'm going to point to it with the tip of the triangle. This is that first planter, and it's at the northwest corner of the patio deck, and it's now been extruded up 2 feet 3 inches, and the column is behind it. So now I'm going to draw the planter next to it. And then after that, I will draw the brick wall that the gate is set into, and the gate, and that little extra bit of brick wall. And I'm putting a cut line where the house wall starts, because I want to remove again the house wall so that we can see more of the patio. I'm kind of interested in showing the brick steps leading up to the patio from where the driveway apron is. And I'm kind of interested to show as much of the patio as possible. So when you start extruding the shapes up, start with the edge that's closest to the viewer, because those things are going to be what you see first, and they will block the things behind them. Does that make sense to everybody? If you have questions, say so. I'm going to keep drawing. All right, so once you have, because these planters are all at the same height, once I have the top of the first planter, I can use that for the second planter. So now I'm going to, I've got my pencil line coming back to meet the edge of the planter. And now I'm going to do the second edge of the planter, extrude that up, and same thing. I can actually use, this one I have to draw another line for because it doesn't line up with the east edge of the front planter. So I'm going to have to measure 2 feet 3 inches going up for that back corner of the rectangular planter that's along the west edge of the patio. But I only have to measure that on one of the verticals, because now I use my triangle Once you get the hang of these, they're pretty darn fast. It's really cool because you just keep flipping your triangle. You keep your T-square steady and start flipping your triangle back and forth, 30 to 60, 30 to 60, and around it goes. And now I am going to ink that in hopes that the camera will pick it up. And again, the only challenge to these is parsing what you're drawing with your eyeballs in your brain, because the underlay underneath the drawing has a lot of information that will not come up onto your Paraline. Like you're not bringing notes or dimensions. All you're bringing are the objects. All right, so here I go on the vertical for this one. And there's one edge, and here's an edge. And I'm going to draw a thickness to it. So these we would not have been able to draw unless and until everybody had the information of the section, the elevation, and the plan. And now, being me, I'm going to add some plants to this. Because that's kind of fun to do. So what I'm doing is I'm just roughing in where some plants may go. And they're partially covering some of the edges of the planter, which is fine. If you were doing this in pencil, you could go back when you've got the whole drawing roughed in and erase what you don't want to show and just show what you actually would see. And it won't be as clear as a perspective, but in its own way, it's really, really cool. All right. I think what I'm going to do next is, we know that the brick wall for the house, and again, that veneer brick wall is the same all the way around. And it's going to only be 3 feet tall from the new patio deck surface. So since that's what we're actually drawing here, I'm going to make it 3 feet tall. And it's going to actually come down below the new surface of the patio because that brick is going down to grade, but from the surface of the patio, 3 feet up. And I'm going to draw the brick coming down. Remember that we have raised the surface of the patio by, what is it, 7.5 inches. This you can get from your elevation, right? The existing brick wall sits on top of the existing concrete patio surface, which is 9 inches above grade. And we had to go an additional 7 inches up to get to the new surface flush with the door, 7 inches up. So that means that brick is actually going to come down, we'll call it 8 inches, so we get 2 courses of brick. Below the new deck surface, 2 courses of brick. So I'm going to draw down below the new deck surface in pencil because we may not see this when it's done. Right about there. At 1/4 inch scale, it's really hard to draw 8 inches. If you draw 9, that's okay. So that means this little wall segment that is right next to the planter is also coming down a little bit. And again, this is where you have to sort of pay attention because now I'm going to be drawing the bottom of that brick wall that supports the gate, and it's going to be on this Paraline that I'm drawing, looking like it's interfering with the steps because the steps are part of the plan underneath, and that's where these things can get confusing if you forget what you're looking at. So now I'm going to ink that wall. If anyone needs a break, go for it. As long as you keep your T-square steady, once you get your guidelines in, you just start flipping things with that triangle. It's pretty cool. And you'll begin to see the illusion of depth. The patio is a small enough structure that most likely, it will read pretty well. A larger construction, the larger it is, the more distortion you get, if that makes sense.
So I'm not sure everyone else is in this drawing, but I have the deck, the walls, I have the ramp drawn.
Hey, go ahead and put it up for us.
It'll look confusing because the underlay is redlined, but
There you go.
perhaps the lines should be a little dark. Well, I guess you can kind of see it up there up
You
top.
can. I think what's going to happen is, so if you stay with this angle, what you might say then is put a note on it to say, you know, existing garage removed to show patio. And I don't know if you guys can see mine at all. I've got on the west edge, I've got the little brick wall segments and the planters, and the columns are roughed in, and the north elevation wall and the east elevation wall are roughed in as well. It's pretty awesome, isn't it? It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, the columns I don't have roughed in yet, but I'm interested to see how my columns kind of turn out.
There, what you'll see, I think I'm going to draw this without the roof, I think, and I'm going to cut my columns part way up because I actually want to see more of the patio. So I'm going to put a little cut line here. And
Whereas I might draw it to show more of the roof line.
yeah. So I'm cutting mine because I really want to see as much of the patio as possible. And I cleverly made, you know, my layout. I put the trace too low on the plan, so I can't go all the way up for the entire house wall everywhere that I'd like to. I can get it at one corner. I can only really get it at one corner. So I'm just going to cut the columns also. And that will be fine. And then this is a classic thing that happens. It's really good to do an underlay so that you guys have seen this on your finished drawings also, that you see what you want to cut off and what you want to show and how you have to position it on your sheet so everything fits. I'm going to go ahead and ink the 2 north columns on the patio up to the cut line I've selected. So I'm going to draw the cut line. And here come the columns. It's interesting because this is a measured drawing. We're drawing it at 1/4 inch scale, but it looks a little bit perspective-ish, a little bit 3-dimensional-ish. I say ish because even at a smaller drawing, there's a little bit of distortion here, but it works, and they're fast. This is something that I would use as a presentation to help people understand the 3-dimensional nature I'm trying to show. And it works pretty well. All right. I think what I will be able to do before the end of studio is pull this off the board or hold the camera so you can see it a little better, and you'll be able to see. I think with the ink, you will be able to see it. I think that's going to work. So everything that's on your plan, you basically draw it at this oblique angle using your little triangle or your big one, whichever is working better. You extrude it up. The gate will be 3 feet also. We'll make that match the walls. And once you get some of the heights measured, the cool thing is you can actually just keep working from those by using your triangle. It's really, really interesting. And I'm just using a layout pencil and then inking over it. And then once the ink dries, I may go ahead and erase the layout pencil. But the ink is definitely darker and you'll have a shot at seeing that. So. If you're drawing on trace, the 3 micron number 3, it's well, technically it's an 03. It's a pretty good one to use because, especially here in Colorado, the line it lays down is thin enough that the ink dries very quickly and you're less apt to smear on trace. So that's kind of handy. Okay. Okay. So once you have the brick walls positioned, you can measure the individual bricks. So I'm going to do 4-inch courses, which will be challenging, but we'll make it happen. It might be slightly approximate at 1/4-inch scale, but I do want to try. Because I want to show the material. On this drawing, I want as few notes as possible and basically no dimensions. So what I want to do instead is show the material. And so I'm going to switch over for the micron pens. I'm going to go to the 01 for the brick. I might even go to an 05. I don't remember if I put this, it's an 005. I don't remember if I put this on your supply list, but it works well for 1/4-inch scale brick lines. And mine's drying out a bit. It is the fate of all pens here in Colorado, I'm afraid. A 1 also works. Actually, this is toast. The littler they are, the quicker they dry out. Uh-oh. Well, this isn't good. I'm going to have to go restock on little pens. All right, I'm going to have to use a larger nib. Dread. Sometimes with the larger nibs, you can draw super fast and super light, and it will read very delicately, as opposed to when you're kind of leaning on your pen a little bit or drawing slowly to make sure the line is super clear. Okay. So I have just drawn, I'm using an 02 because my 01 and my 005 are dead. So I've just drawn the brick into the little wall segment on the west side of the proposed patio. And now I'm going to flip my triangle and show the other edge of the brick. And the more comfortable you are with your triangle and T-square, the more clear these drawings are, because you need to make lines meet nicely. And a trick, if you guys are resting your hands on your T-square as you slide your triangle up and down the T-square, it will, make sure it doesn't move. Kind of handy. Something else that's sort of fascinating about this is as I'm drawing along the north edge of the wall where you can see it, that little brick wall on the patio, it's really interesting that the lines look closer together on the north where the angle is at 60 degrees. They look farther apart on the west where their angle is 30 degrees. That is an optical illusion. It's kind of fascinating. All right. I think I highly recommend drawing the whole thing in pencil because you will probably find that you get to one edge of the drawing or the other and that you've made a boo-boo and you're trying to go back and figure out how to fix that. Pen on trace, you won't be able to. There's, I have a round planter on the northeast corner of the patio, and I'm drawing it more as a gigantic flower pot. So I'm freehanding it so that there's that lip that flower pots often have. So I'm just using my pencil to freehand, and then I've made this wall that I can measure to be that same height as these other planters. Something also that's kind of fascinating is that round planter at the northeast corner of the patio is partially blocking our view of the rectangular planter behind it. So again, you want to start where the closest things are in the drawing and work your way towards the farther ones. And then that way you'll find that you're pretty much drawing it the way it should be and that it's not getting tangled up in itself. So by cutting the columns where I did, I can see that planter, but I still can't see all of it because the round planter hides part of it and the segment of the northeast column also hides part of it, which is okay. I don't mind that. We'll see enough of it. And because it's fun, I went ahead and drew plantings into that round planter at the corner. And now I'm going to go back and do the rest of whatever we can see of the planter that is on that far wall. And it's interesting because it will show behind the circular planter. These things are really cool, actually. Part of it will show. Yep. I had not really specified what the planters would be made out of. I could see them being resin or cast stone, or they could be wood. So I'm drawing these more as if they were cast stone, thinking that that would be super heavy and that that would really, you know, no matter how fast that wheelchair is going, if these are cast stone and they're filled with soil, they're not going anywhere. So I'm drawing them, you know, maybe 2-3 inches thick, imagining that that might be the material and that I'm not showing any wood on the side the way I'm showing the brick on the house walls. All right. Okay, I don't know if the camera's catching this. At this point, using this little guy as a pointer, I've got planters at the north edges. I've got the columns drawn in, but with cut marks, so they're not going all the way up. I roughed those in with pencil so I can use my little kneaded, these are my favorite erasers. The white ones are really good when you're drafting because the white ones you can put down onto your eraser shield and they work great. But when you're not using an eraser shield and you're erasing pencil, I actually really prefer the kneaded eraser because it does not leave crumbs on the drawing. And I can stroke it very gently and it will take off what I want. But when you're using your eraser shield, you may find that the white one is the more useful. Okay. So I am going to attempt, actually, let me go ahead and do a few more lines. I'm going to draw in the brick on the house side that we see. There will be a cut line where we cut off the wall of the house, just as there was on the drawing underneath it. But I'm going to go ahead and draw some more. And then I'll try and move the camera once I have a little more ink on the page and show you what it's looking like. I think the ink is going to make it visible even over the camera. And so that would be a very good thing. All right. Also, the deck, you know, you don't have to put the kind of detail on this that the section has, but you do want to show that the deck itself is about 7 or 8 inches, and then the pad underneath it is like another 9 inches, and then you get to the ground. So I'm just going to show that depth fairly simply. I'm going to show it basically as just a solid Now the curving brick for the patio presents its own challenge. So that the brick is, with the mortar, each course of brick is 4 inches. So the way I'm going to call that out, so it's that bit of wall taken, we hope, from the north edge of the existing patio. I have just drawn where the ground line is. I added up the new height of the patio and the existing concrete pad and created a ground line for myself. And I'll go ahead and do that with ink, but I'm doing, I'm doing it completely freehand because the ground is, you know, there's grass and so forth. So that gives me a sense of where the ground line is. And I know that that patio wall that curves is sitting on the ground. So to draw it, I'm going to make a series of dots and extrapolate the curve using those dots along where the ground line is. So I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I'll draw it and try and show you this with the underlay underneath it. How are we for time? It is 11:30-ish. How's everybody doing?
Chugging along.
So basically what I'm doing with a pencil is I'm freehanding from the ground line at the corner of the patio, drawing a parallel line representing the ground line of where I think this brick is. And it will be, I'm going to do it approximate. If you have a flexible curve, that would be the ideal tool for this, but it was not on the material list, so I don't want to use it either. So you can do it this way. And then from that, I'm going to come back up 4 inches on the vertical, because that is how tall that one course of brick will be. And I'm going to draw that line again, freehand. And this will be a little bit approximate because without the curve being perfect, which I'm okay that it's not, I do the best I can. If you wanted to save that curving brick walkway for the last, something that you could do is move your underlay. Okay. And then trace the underlay to make the edges of where it is. But I've just freehanded it and I'm going to go with that. And now I'm inking it. I'm going to double check that I drew everything in the right place. I hope I did. Haha. All right. So these are fun. Are you guys enjoying yourselves?
So I was a little confused. You brought up earlier the section.
Yeah.
It was the front section.
Yeah.
And we were gonna lay that as well underneath it
No,
to make sure the walls were gonna be straight, or are we just using
No.
it as a reference?
only as a reference.
Okay.
Good question. Thank you for asking that. Only as a reference.
Okay. And then the way you laid the paper at first was at a 30-degree angle and then you taped it down?
Yes.
Okay.
So using the triangle, and I've switched over to using a littler one because the page is littler.
Yeah.
So if you can see this triangle, this is the one that has a 60-degree 60-degree angle, 30-degree angle.
Yeah.
And
So going towards the front of the patio, you're using 30.
mhm,
And then going towards the door area, you're flipping it around and using a 60.
yes. So
Okay.
the north edge of the patio where the ramp is,
Mm-hmm.
the north wall of the house where the existing door is, those
Okay.
are both the 60-degree.
Okay.
And then the east wall and the west wall are both at
Yeah.
30 degrees.
Okay.
And in both cases, it's the hypotenuse of your triangle that's laying along the T-square. And you literally can just slide back and forth. Now I'm using 60, now I'm using 30.
Okay.
And that was a choice that I made because I wanted to show the little gate down to the driveway. And I wanted to show the planters and the ramp. And I figured if I look at the plan as if I were above it, but standing maybe by the driveway,
Yeah.
I could see those things. If you could orient this to other angles also, right? It depends on what you want to show. But with this angle, I can show the north facade of the house, so I can see the new windows and patio doors. I can see the existing door. I can see all 4 columns, and I'm cutting them off because I don't want to show the roof, because I really want to show the patio. We don't need the roof for this. We know it's there. We know the columns go up to it. If you have the larger sheet size, something that you could actually do is have the roof up here and dotted lines back to the columns, and then it's like an exploded drawing. You can see the whole floor of the patio, and then the dotted lines lead you up and you could see the whole roof of the patio. However, for people working with the 11 by 17, you won't have room to do that, I don't think. And so just showing the interesting part, which is the new patio surface, the rounded grade, the edge treatments that keep our person safe. And then what can be done here is a little cut line going up. I would probably put it like right there. And then just put down below the drawing to the right a little note with an arrow saying, West house wall to existing garage removed to show patio. And remember that everybody's going to be looking at a plan and a section and elevations also. So this is a bit of a vision showing, hinting at what the three-dimensional is going to look like in person if you were a bird flying over it.
Okay.
Okay?
And it's all done at a quarter?
Yes, it is. And again, your page reference from Ching is page 94 and 95 for the plan oblique drawing at 60-30, using the 60-30 angles. I will add that to our chat thread. Let me see if I can do that without knocking my poor laptop onto the ground. Ah. Okay. Paraline, 1/4 inch scale, 30-60 angles. This is like hunting and pecking on a vertical keyboard. Ching reference pages 94 and 95. There it is. And I'm going to keep drawing. It's starting to shape up, actually. It's coming along. So at this point, I'm going to try holding the camera up over the drawing. So wish me luck, kids. I'm not going to be able to see what the camera is seeing. I'm just going to hold it up. Okay, I'm going to have to unplug the microphone.
If you could bring it a little bit more towards you, the laptop. Yeah, that's much better. A little fuzzy, but holy cow. Professor, if you're trying to talk, it's really, really, really hard to hear you.
All right, so hopefully you guys can hear
Okay,
this.
there we go.
What I'm going to do is get a camera and take a couple stills of this drawing, and then I can upload that into D2L as an example of a 30-60 Paraline begun using our 1/4 inch plan as an underlay. And then even if the video goes bluey, which I think I figured it out, it won't, but you'll have kind of a series of, I'll just photograph this and you can see the ink, the drawing growing over the underlay with the triangle. So I'm going to go get my camera, and meanwhile I'm going to put this guy back looking at the keep.
Oh, can't hear you.
Yeah, there goes the video. Well, not the video, the audio.
Yeah.
Back in. Okay. Can everybody hear again? Testing one, two,
Yeah.
three. Okay. So what I'm going to do is go get a camera and photograph this drawing. And then I can put that into the laptop and upload it to D2L as part of the tutorial. At this stage, I don't know if that came across on the laptop or not, but what I was trying to show, the underlay is still under the drawing. And I've got the two north columns, and I've got the north planters and the little brick wall that the gate is set into, and I have roughed in the existing house wall with pencil.
Mm-hmm.
I've drawn a cut line, which will have a note that says house west wall removed to show patio. I've roughed in where the brick will be on the house's existing east wall, which borders our patio on the east side. Those things are roughed in with pencil, and then the planters and the brick at the edges are drawn in with the ink. So I'm going to photograph this. I will be right back. I'm going to go ahead and get my camera and do that now before I draw anymore. And I think it will show up better on the camera, and I can upload that into the computer for you guys. So I will be right back, everybody. Hey guys, I am back, and I have to plug in this battered cell phone that doesn't work as a phone anymore, but still works rather well as a camera. I won't be able to take a picture quite yet, but in a few minutes I will. So right now, do you guys have any questions on what we've been doing thus far with the Paraline? Is it kind of making sense to people? So for people who are working on the ramp, because the ramp is, we know that the ramp is about, we'll call it 15, 16 feet long. We know that it has to drop down a little over a foot, about 1.5 feet. So is that right? Let me think about this. 9 plus 7.5, 10, 11, 12, 4.5. Let's just,
About 15.
yeah, thank you. I was thinking maybe 15.5, but anyway, let's call it 15. So you can use your scale at 1/4 inch, which will help you measure how thick the new patio really is. right? You've got 9 inches of concrete slab and you've got 7.5 of new deck. So you can draw that as a vertical line at the corner of the ramp where it meets the new deck. And then you can measure out, if we're calling it 15, you measure out 8.5 feet, and that gives you your midway point on the ramp. And that midway point on the ramp is going to be half of what the rest of the deck is. And that will allow you to establish a slope. So this is an important detail. You can actually accurately draw the slope of the ramp, and I would not draw any of the substructure. I would just do it as basically a triangle, you know, like a void. You're just kind of showing that it's got form, but you're not worried about showing what's happening. And then you take your triangle and line it up with what you just drew, and now you've got, I will ink this and I will photograph this. Now you've got the angle that the ramp is going down, and it's clear in the drawing that it is indeed going down. And you can also draw that by hand because it's going down on grade where there's soil and there's grass. So I don't know how much the camera's picking up, but once this sucker charges enough to actually work, hopefully we'll have it. Having technological challenges. I'm sorry, I should have thought to do that before we started class. If you're showing your entire ramp, then you can show where it touches the grade, and you can show where it meets the patio deck, and you can simply draw a straight line connecting those two. And that will also show you that wedge shape along what is in fact the west side of the ramp that you're looking at. And if you've done a different design for your ramp, then you have to draw what your design is. So it's kind of beginning to shape up. And then that ADA railing, you know, that's going to be 36 inches tall. And everyone has a center line where the railing is. So you can draw that as a line that is going to also represent that curb that's part of the ADA railing, right? And then measure the vertical up 36 inches and you'll have a railing for your ramp. And that railing is going to block part of the ramp, so you're not going to see the surface on all of it. So it's just a matter of being very methodical, extruding all your vertical lines up the correct amount, which you can get using your elevation and your section as a reference, not as an underlay, but as a reference. And then you leave the plan as the underlay. And if you drew the plan accurately and you drew the elevation and the section accurately, the Paraline will be accurate. It's pretty cool. All right, I will be right back. This camera's fighting back. I'm going to see if I can find my other one and take a quick photograph before I draw anymore. Guys, it is closing in on noon. Is everybody back at their drawing board? I know some people might have gone off to take a break. I am going to move the laptop and the drawing board. And I just want to talk about what is due on Monday. Okay. Oh man. Okay, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording. So tape